Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining Sandra P's Gen Extra. I hope everyone is having a great Thursday and got a chance to watch Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Even if you didn't watch it, I'm going to do a recap before I do the actual opinion-based, no real rants. It was an okay episode. A lot of talking. We are still, of course, at Lisa's clarification luncheon. And that luncheon, as we know, popped off most people were up in arms. Heather was not. Mary Cosby was not. But the main participants were. Toward the end, Bronwyn wasn't either. But we'll see a little bit more activity from Bronwyn again. Lisa stayed engaged because it was her luncheon. So welcome to Sandra P's Gen Extra. Mama Bees came in as the moderator. I appreciate you being here during the live. Thank you so much. Anyone that is in the bushes, you can still please click the like button. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And I thank you so much for that. Thank you. And I took a couple of notes from this review. As I said, there's still at Lisa's clarification luncheon. So just come in, join me, and we'll just engage if you're in here during this live. This was pretty good. And let me make sure I'm not going to be disturbed at all. And we'll go through starting at the luncheon. And then we have a couple more scenes that are going on. The one thing I like about this cast, even though certain ones have feuds going, all of them are able to meet with any of the others and kind of hash things out in person, which is what the viewer, speaking as a viewer, want to see. I don't want to see anything so terrible where they can never come back from it. If anybody can forgive Lisa in her mouth, Lisa Barlow, some of the things she says is too much. Luckily, she's dealing with the cast that they already kind of expect that from her. And their personality types, they're not going to really get all revved up with her, but they know how to kind of still keep things going, still keep the story moving. So we have Angie K and Lisa Barlow are still into it. At the end of the episode, which I had to give that round to Lisa because it was her clarification lunch, some of the poster boards did not make sense. Some of what she had written dismissed on did not make sense. We still weren't clear as to whether or not the cases were dismissed. She didn't answer Bronwyn's question. Are they dismissed because you paid the people, or were they dismissed because there was no merit? And Lisa's final line was, they're dismissed because it's none of your effing business. So Lisa, that is not a real answer to the question. Right now, we got Whitney already stormed off. Mary and Heather at the end of the table looking. Poor Amy. Amy, the Utah socialite, who I heard was thinking about accepting a snowflake, but has been rethinking that ever since they came to her house and started screaming vulgar stuff. Welcome in, CC. CC is my other moderator that came in, spoke to myself, Mama Bees, and the rest of the chat. Thank you so much. CC, we are on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. And come in if you will, and we will start this review. All right, let's get this out of the way. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Okay, Lisa's Clarity Luncheon is still roaring. No food was on the table yet, everybody. And I feel like they had skeet shooting at first with part of the group, and then the other ladies that were there for the clarification part of the luncheon came in. The only thing they had were drinks. I have to criticize Lisa on that. Lisa, you could have had appetizers for the whole table, something. A part of what's going on is I think the people are hungry. Heather said she was hungry. She said that last week. So Bronwyn in her shaggy, enormous pink fur is saying, she asked you a question and you hurl insults. All you do is hurl insults. That's true. That's the way Lisa communicates. Lisa argues like a degenerate baby. And if Lisa were in my presence and she talked like that, I wouldn't talk to her at all. I don't like people that conduct themselves like that all the time. Anybody can go off. Anybody can get out of pocket. But if that's your normal mode of communication, I'm not a person that you're going to be around. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I don't care for it. So Lisa points at her and says, nice twist, Bronwyn, which Bronwyn's telling the truth. That is how Lisa communicates. We get Whitney in her green confessional look saying, if Lisa wants to clear up these allegations, she has to explain it. But she's like a toddler, and I'm removing myself until she's tucked herself out. So then here comes Whitney. Whitney comes back in because she's trying to get paid. Whitney's got bills to pay too. We found out that Wild Rose is being wound down. Something's going on with whether or not she owes people money as well. She and Justin are in deep. She has invested all of their life savings, and she let us know that she's lost everything. So Whitney is on pins and needles, and it's not just because of Lisa Barlow's mouth. Whitney's got her own stuff going. So Lisa's now loudly saying, you only own 1.5 salons. The rest are franchise. She's saying this to Angie K about her salons. So Angie stands up and says, let me explain my cash to you. I own 3 salons. The rest are franchise, and I'm very proud of that business model. So that was a good, calm way of explaining. But I don't know why she's standing. I don't like when these ladies start standing. Lisa was still sitting at this point, even though she did jump up and down last week. She's going to do it again this week, but right now she's sitting. So then Lisa's still saying, no, 1.5. You own 1.5, and everything else is franchise. You're always saying, I own 10 salons. I own 10 salons. You don't own 10 salons. I don't know how Lisa knows this, but that's what she's saying. Angie K is saying, no, I own 3. The rest are franchise. That's the business model. She said, I do franchises. You do French fries. Heather looked down the table at that. And Mary said, French fries? Remember, there's no food. So Mary Cosby, French fries woke her up because everybody's hungry. She said, French fries. And Heather turns around and explains it to Mary. She said, you do French fries. I do franchises. And Mary said, oh, that's good. So Angie starts speaking of Fresh Wolf. The Fresh Wolf line is Lisa's son. I guess it's hair products, skin products. I'm not sure, but it's for children. It was in Angie K's salon. We find out Angie K moved it to the basement, supply closet type thing, because it wasn't moving. And we find out that Lisa has done no promotion. And Angie said, you took up all this shelf space in my salon. If you've been in anybody's salon, I don't care the size, they don't have a lot of shelf space for products. So I don't know why Lisa would do that. She said, you took up all this shelf space in my salon. You did no promotion for Fresh Wolf. And then here you are promoting another brand. And Lisa says, that's right. I got a promotion deal because they love my shiny hair. Lisa does have nice hair. And Angie K says, well, she said, you paint it so dark, super dark black, it's hard to keep it shiny. Both of you have nice shiny hair. I didn't know why she had to say that to her, but she did. Whitney Roast returns to the table. Lisa's disparaging Angie K's salon still about the franchising. I actually believe Angie because the way she explained it made sense. She has 3 thriving salons. So for her to allow franchising, somebody's going to pay her to use that name, to use that model. I don't see anything wrong with it. So I actually believe her. And then we get Angie K in her confessional. She's wearing that big bow baby blue dress, which is really pretty on her. She says what Lisa does is she does all this research on everybody, whether you're good with her at the time or not. And then she holds stuff about you in her back pocket to spring on you and weaponize against you later. Wow. Yikes. This is terrible for a friend. This is terrible. See, I'm asking this too. I mean, why do the housewives count each other's pockets? They're all in competition. You remember years ago when Atlanta, Nene had one of her tagline was, I don't keep up with the Joneses. I am the Joneses. Why do y'all have to do that? If you're supposed to be friends or frenemies or whatever their relationship is, you got enough of your own problems without trying to count some other woman's house and pocketbook. Cece, welcome Paula in, and Paula speaks. Hello, Paula. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming in during our review. So they are still at this clarification lunch, and everybody, the poor little wait staff came in, tried to take their order last week. She was successful because here comes the food. Thank God. I know Mary Cosby and Heather were happy. So Angie says, I put your son's product on my shelf. She says, and here you are out here promoting somebody else's product. They get into it a little bit about that. And then she says, and actually, your son's product should have never been in my salon. It belongs in Walmart. It's more of a C line. And in my salon, we have A-line products. Heather has heard enough because Lisa's eyes start bulging out. She's getting ready to go crazy. Heather said, okay, let's stop. She said, I feel, she's talking to Lisa, I feel that you were unfairly attacked when we went on the RV trip. You were not there to defend yourself, and you had every right to defend yourself now. But Angie K is going low. You're going low. There's no reason for either of you to go low. We're here to talk. And Angie K says, I'm not going low. I'm just responding. And Heather says, there's no need for you to say her son's line belongs in Walmart. She said, that's a diss. You don't need to go low. I'm not friends with Lisa because of her sponsorships, because of anything she may have going on legally. I'm friends with you because you are a great time. You're so fun to be with. This is not a great time. Heather's right. They haven't had fun in a long time. Even the last time Lisa and Heather had lunch alone, Lisa managed to dig into Heather about, we're not the same. None of you girls have anything like the way I live. So I wouldn't want a friend like Lisa. The camera pans to Amy, the Utah socialite. She's looking fearful. Poor Amy. I don't think she's going to get that snowflake or accept the snowflake, and I wouldn't blame her. She says, you are a fearless, strong person when everything is going your way, but when you think someone is against you or things are not going your way, she said, you can be very vulnerable. She said, you feel invincible until you're not. She said, I want to see you feel vulnerable. I don't want us to go low with each other. Lisa says, I am vulnerable. That's exactly how she was talking. I am vulnerable. And Mary says, you never show it. And Lisa says, I grew up differently from all of you. Here she goes. I grew up differently from all of you. And that's why you can't tell when I'm vulnerable. But I am vulnerable. I go back and forth with Lisa Barlow. I think she's a perfectly terrible person, but I have a little bit of compassion for her. I can't imagine conducting myself like that. I can't. So Lisa calls out, Angie Castanevis, you, I love you. Just exactly how she was doing. They're across from each other. I love you. And when you love someone deep and they do something to hurt you, it hurts. It hurts. And that's when you really want to get back at them. So what she's basically telling Angie is that I thought we were real friends. I do have love for you. But when I found out you were talking about me behind my back, I'm really going to dig into you and put all your business out there. We find out that she does have research that she does on everybody. And so that's why now she's telling all of Angie's business. So she said, I thought we were in a good place. But then when I heard that conversation happen, I had to come back at you. They're both seated now, thankfully. The food is there, so some of the ladies are eating. Angie says, I am sorry. I love you, even when I want to wring your neck. But I am sorry about the way things happen. For some of the things I said during the RV trip, I'm sorry. So I think things are good. I think everything's good, but we know this group. So Lisa says, Heather, I love you. Heather tells me what I need to hear. Heather has been my longtime friend. And I never say things that I don't mean. But when I'm vulnerable, sometimes I lash out and I say things that maybe I shouldn't say. So I'm sorry. I can't believe Lisa is apologizing. She's apologized to Angie. She's apologized to Heather. So I'm proud of Lisa in this moment. So Brownwood says, I take no pride in hearing some of the things that I heard. I take no pride in saying a lot of the things that I said. I don't want to go low either. I just want Lisa, I wanted you to stop talking about me. This is fair. I think Lisa has been below the belt with Brownwood. Lisa says, I don't want to go low with you. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's just you took a lot of the things that I said as an offense, and I didn't mean it as an offense. Y'all remember this lady talked about Todd like a dog, called Brownwood a gout D-sucker, but evidently she didn't mean any offense. She didn't mean any offense. So Lisa raises a glass. She said, I want to raise a glass, and I want to cheer you ladies. So Angie K says, cheers, Bezos. So they have cheers, they have kisses, and they got the food on the table. So finally, this was the end of that clarification brunch. I don't know what, if anything, got clarified, but they left it kind of okay. They did. They left it okay. Hall is speaking to everyone and telling them good morning in return. So we open with that beautiful Utah scenery. I love when they shoot the mountains, when they show the different stores. We're going into Meredith's store. Seth is there. Seth is her husband. He looks nice. He had one of those black Letterman's jackets, but they don't have a letter on it. It's just the black jacket and then like a nice gray shirt. I think Meredith dresses him because Seth doesn't strike me as stylish. Chloe is there. We met Chloe in Next Gen NYC. Chloe is the 22-year-old daughter. She is Brooks Mark's sister. So Chloe, there's something that they need in the ceiling. Seth has got Chloe on his shoulders, lift clear up, and she's doing something in the ceiling. So these three are a trip. Meredith is in her high boots that they love to wear in Utah to show that they're stylish and cool. They leave that. The next scene they go is a restaurant called a Hash Kitchen. I love how production does that. If these ladies are going to come in there and tear up your spot, you may as well get a little bit of publicity out of it. So we see Heather and Mary Cosby having brunch, and they're eating. Mary asks, "What were you drinking? What was everybody drinking?" Heather says, "Well, I took a little bit of your tequila." Mary said, "I don't drink tequila." Nice try, Heather. Why are you trying to make this lady look like she was drinking? That was the rest of y'all. Mary says, I don't drink tequila. She said, "I might have had a little bit of medication." Now that tracks. Sometimes Mary Cosby, in my opinion, looks a little spaced out. So she says she doesn't take tequila, that maybe it was a little bit of medication, possibly. And she said, "But I switched drinks with somebody and it had kind of a hospital taste." So Heather's like, "A hospital taste?" She said, "Yeah, it kind of smelled like medicine." Heather says, "Oh, so no, it's not just a smell, it's also a taste." Mary says, "Yeah, kind of like when you pass gas, there's a smell and a taste, and you're like, oh, I opened my mouth." So Heather looks right at the camera like The Office, and then she starts laughing. And production treats us to a scene of Mary telling Jen Shaw, "You smell like hospital." And Jen Shaw went crazy on her. But production, if y'all say you don't need Jen Shaw, stop mentioning the lady, stop showing flashbacks of her. But that was funny. And then we go to another scene. Whitney is with Justin at the house. I thought Justin was assembling a chair. Apparently, he's assembling a stripper pole. We got Whitney trying to seduce him, shaking around in her little leather shorts, bending over. Justin's not really paying her too much mind, y'all. We know there's a 14-year age difference between Justin and Whitney. So the two of them just seem to be at different places in life. She's telling us, "I miss being known as the mom with the stripper pole in her house and swinging from my pole, and the carpool moms talking about me, because then I became the CEO and I had to drop that persona." Now, Whitney, did you really become the CEO? This is the company she's folding up, y'all. So Justin is laughing. She said, "Well, I've like, what's that flower that closes in on itself? I want to reopen my flower." Justin's really laughing. "Oh, reopen your flower." The two of y'all are not sexy at all. But if they like it, we have to love it, I guess. We get another scene. Bronwyn's driving up in her Range Rover. She chooses this little space, jumps on the curb. She almost hit this car, y'all. So when she gets out, she looks so cute. I don't know. They had a title of one of their episodes a few seasons ago called, what is it, Couture? And I think that something they called it Couture or something else, but I think that is the look that Bronwyn goes for. She's dressed like she's in an art museum or something. I don't know how to describe it, but it was like a b-boy suit with all these different graffiti looking things on it. And the purse was this flat purse, but it was a dollar bill, but it was a purse. So she parked very badly, went in. She goes into the tequila lounge. This is Lisa and her husband John's tequila lounge business. Lisa's dressed like she has on pajamas, but they were very stylish pajamas. Lisa says, "Oh," she says, "you look so cute. I swear, I almost wore those same jeans. We were almost in the same jeans." I don't know, because this looked like something that was exclusive to Bronwyn. I don't know how many of those little suits they could have made, but Lisa claims they almost wore the same thing. So Bronwyn's looking around. "It looks nice in here. It looks nice." She says, "Yeah, this is kind of new. We put this lounge together during Sundance." That's the Sundance Film Festival. Rest in peace to Robert Redford, who Robert Redford was instrumental in that. Everyone's speaking to each other. "Okay, thank you, Mama B." She's in the bushes. So she's headed to take her sister shopping. "Drive safely. Be safe. I hope y'all have a great time. Thank you, Mama B's. I appreciate it." So I said custom graffiti, b-boy suit, jacket, pants, and then that oversized dollar bill purse. And then when she took off the jacket, the inside was leopard skin. That's how I don't think that Lisa was getting ready to wear those same jeans. It just looked unique to me. So they greet each other, and Lisa says, "I know that we had a moment, but I did want to talk to you alone, because when we're with the ladies, there's so many voices." This is true with all of the franchises. When one or two people have a problem, all of a sudden it becomes the whole group that gets something going. So I appreciate Lisa pulling Bronwyn aside, because I don't know why her and Bronwyn were really into it, other than Lisa would not stop talking about Bronwyn's husband Todd. And then also, a couple of seasons ago, Lisa became friends with Gwen. Gwen is Bronwyn's daughter. She made friends with Gwen's grandparents who have not reached out to Gwen, don't talk to Gwen, none of that. We know Bronwyn was a teen mom. She was pregnant while in college, had to leave college. She went to Brigham Young. Unmarried women are not allowed. So that was a whole thing. And I thought that was very unfriendly of Lisa to do that. But we get confessional Lisa in a red dress saying, I have to talk to her alone because there are too many women around to keep things going. And also there are private and personal things that I want to talk about. Now, Lisa tells Bronwyn, I'm sorry, I didn't know that what I was disclosing and saying would actually hurt you. I don't know how she didn't know that, but she claims ignorance to hurting Bronwyn's feelings over the things she said. We get a flashback to the reunion where we find out that Lisa had made friends with Gwen's grandparents. The grandparents went 18 years without acknowledging Gwen. So that was really hurtful to Bronwyn. So Lisa's saying, oh, me too, me too. That hurt me too when you started talking about John, because John's like my everything. And it's just hard if anybody talks about John or his business, then that I have a hard time with it. Lisa never acknowledges that she starts a lot of the stuff. And then when people return her same energy, she's confused about it. And then now she's willing to apologize. So Bronwyn interrupts to say, me saying that John looked a little stressed is not the same thing as you calling me a whore and saying that I suck D for clothes. So that's how low Lisa goes. And she did. Lisa said, I never said that about you. Lisa lies and said, I never called you a garden tool. Bronwyn said, it was implied. She said, and Bronwyn said, for you to take a joke that I made 5 years ago about, when she gets the American Express bill, she has to distract Todd. That's where that came from, for Lisa to throw that up in her face a week or so ago. And she said that to her 5 years ago. So this is why you cannot be friends with somebody like Lisa. Just treat her as a coworker. Cece says, I would never acknowledge my parents if they treated me and my child like that. Yeah, that was really terrible. I don't know if Gwen's other side of the grandparents are in her life now or not. But to me, I'm with Cece. I think that's unforgivable. Bronwyn says, it's just been a race to the bottom. And I'm sorry that I've said things to hurt you. Some of it was unintentional, but I will be honest and say some of it was intentional. After you started hurting me and my daughter, then yes, it was intentional. And then she says, going forward, Todd has to be off limits. Because Todd is one of the husbands, I say most of the Utah husbands, except Seth. Todd does not get in women business at all, as Nene would say, women business. He doesn't. So for Lisa to constantly attack him, that was a lot. And then what Bronwyn said about John, he's looking a little stressed. That's nothing like the things that Lisa has said about Todd. So Bronwyn says she wants Todd off limits. And Lisa says, if John is. Bronwyn said, well, I never really said anything about John, but okay, he could be off limits. I think Lisa thought she could talk crazy to and about everybody. And then she's just now kind of surprised that other people, Whitney Rose is speaking up, Bronwyn speaking up, they're not allowing it. Even Heather is saying things. So Lisa adds in, okay, the husband, the business. She says the children. Bronwyn said, I never talked about your children. And she didn't. So Lisa wants the kids off limits as well. Bronwyn agrees. And as far as the grandparents, I don't know if Lisa is still in the life of Gwen's grandparents and friends, but they just start talking about the kids, the mission. Lisa had a son that was on a mission. I think the mission is only a year, so he may be done by now. And they don't always have to go out of the country. Sometimes they go to different states, because I've seen them here in Charlotte. They knock on doors, they ride those bikes. So wherever they feel like they need to spread the word, that's where they go. Next, we go to Bronwyn's house. Bronwyn tells us, she calls her mother Muzzy. Muzzy saw a fight that Bronwyn had with Gwen, and it made her feel terrible. And she's kind of trying to rethink the way that she has done things with Bronwyn. We can't really tell. I think Bronwyn's mother is perfectly awful. I really do. And I have compassion for what she's going through. Her husband has dementia. He's in a memory care center. She's had her own health challenges, but I don't excuse how she treats Bronwyn. I don't like it at all. Confessional Bronwyn says, I don't want to be like my mother. Is that a terrible thing? No, it's not a terrible thing. If your mother's terrible, you don't want to be like that. You have to try to improve yourself. So I don't think that was terrible. Lisa and this is at the end of their meeting. They congratulate each other for being able to have the conversation without yelling. And Lisa says, well, I will be the one to yell more. So Bronwyn said, yeah, we'll congratulate us on a no yelling conversation. She said, I'm more cutting and you're more of a loud person, which is true. They're laughing about it, which I'm glad to see. Our next scene, we see Mary. Mary's dressed all in purple, y'all. She looks beautiful. She's driving. She's driving her cousin, Big Joe. They're in the car. They're headed to the church. They're walking to the new church. Mary's carrying a beautiful purple pocketbook, perfectly matching her shoes. Mary can be stylish when she wants to. So they're showing up at the church that we find out Big Joe was also the contractor. And Mary's grandmother is a picture on the wall with a white Jesus. Y'all, that was kind of hard to look at. I haven't seen one of those stained glass windows or pictures like that in years. I didn't know churches with Black people in them were still doing white Jesus, but it is Utah. Big Joe says, yeah, Mary, this color on you, that purple, that's royalty. Purple is a sign of royalty. Mary's going through with a fine tooth comb. She's looking on either side of the aisle. She sees a nail sticking out of one of the pews. She's like, look at this. This could stick somebody. Then we get a confessional with her saying, Big Joe is my cousin. He's also the contractor. So he is milking it. It has been 2 years. She said he took a year just to do the wood floors. Family will do that sometimes. So I don't know. I don't know about hiring family. And then he asked how Robert is doing, Robert Jr. Mary's saying that church is a community for him. She's excited for everybody to come back into their new building, the restored building, and for Robert Jr. to come back. And she says, we're 100 times closer than we used to be. And now it's really hard because when he's going through stuff, I can tell. So Mary says, now that they're so close, the downside is not really a downside, but she can feel him and where he's at. And Big Joe gets teary-eyed because Robert Jr. is his baby too. He said, yeah, he's smart. He's so smart. He's got a good heart. I remember his first steps was across that, like walking across the pulpit floor. So they start to just kind of elevate Robert Jr. and say the things that he needs. He needs to be back in community. He needs to back inside our church. And Big Joe saying, well, we're here today because of everything that your grandmother did for all of us. Mary's getting emotional. She says, I'm everything I am today because of my grandmother. She said the grandmother wanted Mary to marry her husband when she passed away. Y'all know that has been such a big scandal. But we find out that there was an age difference between Robert Sr. and his late wife, Mary's grandmother. I don't know. I still see why people would think that is creepy. I don't know about that, y'all. But it caused a rift in the family because Mary's mother felt like everything should be passed down to her. It's not just the church. It's also a bunch of outside businesses. So that is where that family gets their money from. And then they have the church as well. And a lot of people speculate on the church. Whitney used to do a lot of that. We find out from Mary that her mother used to sell stories about her to the newspaper. Toward the end, Mary's mother didn't want anything to do with her. Mary said, well, I will oblige you in that. We find out Mary's mother passed away, I believe sometime last year, and they were not on good terms. They weren't even on speaking terms. So that's actually really sad. I feel badly for Mary Cosby about that. She and her cousin Big Joe are still crying over it. So Mary pulls something out of her purse to kind of, wipe her eyes with. I thought it was a tissue. He said, that's a Louis. So they both start laughing. She said, oh, I thought this was a tissue. It looked like a Louis Vuitton, either a mask or something like that. She said, I thought it was a regular Kleenex. So Joe said, oh my God, that's a Louis. So both of them are laughing. The next scene we get Angie's salon. Angie has a beautiful salon, y'all. It is big. It looks full. Heather shows up. Heather walks up looking good. Heather looks cute. Her hair looked good. Heather had little waves in her hair. But when she comes in, Angie greets her and says, she's telling her staff, jokingly, I think, I don't know, pour everybody some champagne. Maybe they'll let me give them a perm. Confessional Angie says, I haven't done a perm in like 30 years since I was in beauty school. So I don't know why she thinks she's going to start today. And she told Heather, are you going to let me give you a perm? Heather said, I said nothing permanent, But Heather's a good sport. She gets in Angie's chair. Angie starts immediately with those little hard pink rollers, and she's spraying it and just rolling up Heather's hair. Heather's a good friend because Heather already looked good. I think I would have been there for moral support. So as she's sitting in the chair, you know, you start talking to your stylist. Angie says, I was in here the other day. This lovely little gal shows up. Sean and I are here. And she says, I'm here to pick up the product for Lisa. So remember, they got into that little argument about Fresh Wolf. She sent her assistant over to pick up the rest of the products. Production flashes back and shows us. So they were filming that day. Angie goes downstairs with a crate, boxes up all the Fresh Wolf stuff, and brings it upstairs, gives it to the girl. And Lisa texts, I sent you $600 Venmo for it. So Angie's offended. She said, I didn't ask her to send me any money for this. Why doesn't she take that $600 that she owed people and give them the money? She does a speaking to text feature on her phone and sends her this text and shows it to Heather. Heather's like, oh my God. So remember, at the end of the clarification lunch, Angie and Lisa were okay. So I guess Lisa got home or back to her business and ended up getting mad and sent somebody to pick up the Fresh Wolf products that were left. So Angie says that Lisa said to her, and I'm so glad I don't have to go on vacation and use somebody else's credit card and then try to pay it when I get back. And Angie says, she said, you see how she does? She takes things about herself and then she projects them onto you and she throws everything up against the wall to kind of see what sticks. So Heather's like, do you both have to go low? And Angie says, yeah, I don't want to go low, but if she throws something at me, I'm going to throw it back at her. And yeah, I do have to go low. Heather says, I thought everything was good. So now the feud has rekindled. Everything is not good, unfortunately. We get another scene. Whitney and Brittany are meeting at, I guess it was a place for plants. Whitney's telling Brittany, they have furnished my whole place as far as the plants go, but I have never been inside the store. Brittany says, oh, really? So they're talking. We find out that Brittany wanted to apologize. She said, when I watched Lisa drag Angie's business and drag your business, I realized that, wow, I did the same thing. So production shows us the flashback to the RV trip when Brittany was bringing up, what about all this stuff going on with Wild Rose? And then when Whitney Rose flew back and said something about, so what are you doing out here sucking D? These ladies, that's the only insult that they throw toward each other. I don't know where they get that from. And then they show the driver, they pan to that driver laughing when he was driving them around in the RV. And they were talking like he wasn't even there. Some of the things they were saying was kind of embarrassing. Welcome in, Lisa Triplet. Thank you so much. Good morning. So Brittany says that Jared and I are working to getting engaged again. We're in a good space. We don't care about Jared Osmond, Brittany. He's supposed to be some type of Utah celebrity. We don't care. Whitney starts talking to her about, she said, well, how is that going with, I think her daughter's name is Olive, something like that. She says, well, Olivia. She said, how are things going with you and Olivia? Olivia and Brittany are not on good terms. And Whitney says, well, is it because of Jared? She says, yeah, it is because of Jared. Jared doesn't really treat Brittany well from what we can all see. But Brittany says, I just want to be with Jared. He treats me so well. I think because he's some type of name in Utah that she wants to be with him. I think he may want to be on TV now, y'all. I don't know what it is. Because I don't know. I'm not impressed with him. I don't know why everybody else is crazy about him. So Whitney says, well, even as an adult, you still need your mom. She said, I was in a hard space with my mom for a lot of years, and you still need your mom. She said, I never stopped needing her. I never stopped loving her. If you have to back away from Jared to be good with Olivia, then maybe do that. Brittany's looking shocked. What? Back away from Jared? We're on our way to maybe getting engaged again. Brittany, that man's stringing you along. I don't see a scenario where you're not going to be an Osmond. Jared Osmond's not going to marry this lady. So I don't know what she's talking about. We get a confessional with Whitney saying, I'm getting so annoyed with her acting like she doesn't know what I'm talking about, that she needs to be close with her daughter, Olive, even if she has to cut off Jared to do it. Yeah, he's related to Donnie and Marie Osmond, Lisa Triplet. I was laughing the other week because I said, He's not even their son. He is, you know, that group. They had a huge group, the Osmonds. They were trying to be like the Jacksons. That's who they were based on. Verl, not Earl, but Verl. That's his daddy. So he is a nephew to Donnie and Marie. Elisa is reminding us. Brittany is so absent-minded. Remember, they're in this plant store. She's holding a cactus, and she's standing there stroking this cactus while they're talking. And I'm looking at her like, why is she doing that? You know, when you put your hand on plants, it damages them, the oils and stuff. She's stroking this cactus. Whitney finally says, put the cactus down. And she took the cactus out of her head and put it down. They should have made her buy it. That is random, but it got on my nerves too. Whitney finally saved the cactus and took it out of her hand. And then she took her by the shoulders and said, Olivia comes first. She comes before Jared. She comes before you and Jared's relationship. If you have to cut him off, cut him off. Brittany's looking like, I don't know. So we'll see what happens with that. He's out here cheating. He's sending out tongue hanging out emojis to other women. Angie K told us that a couple of episodes ago. So I'll say get rid of him. He's not going to make an honest woman out of her. Get rid of him. Next, we go to Bronwyn's house. We have Muzzy in there folding something. I don't know what it was. It looked like it wasn't like a linen or anything. We don't know what Muzzy was doing. But she was trying to make herself useful. When Bronwyn come in, it kind of made her laugh. The kids come down. Gwen and her live-in boyfriend come down. They said, we're going to bowling league. So I guess bowling league is a euphemism, y'all. And Bronwyn said, that's code for alone time. Muzzy immediately gets disgusted. She says, that never could have happened in my house. I don't care for Muzzy, y'all, but I have to agree with her on that. So she and Bronwyn sit down to talk. Muzzy saying, this kind of parenting, this never works. Bronwyn starts getting upset. Bronwyn, she transfers back to her teenage years when she talks to her mother. Bronwyn sits on the couch and kind of folds her legs. They call it crisscross applesauce, but we used to call it Indian style. We know why they changed it, but crisscross her legs and watches Muzzy starts kind of downing her as a mother. That could have never been me. You could have never been allowed to do that in my house. Bronwyn finally stands up for herself and Gwen, and I don't agree with it either, but she says, I don't want her to have to hide from me. I don't want her to have to sneak around. Muzzy is still insistent. This new parenting didn't work. And Bronwyn saying, well, the way you parented me, did that work? I was still 19. I still had a little baby all by myself. We get a confessional with Bronwyn. Bronwyn tells us that they were all shopping in Baby Gap. Bronwyn was pregnant. She has two sisters that were also pregnant at the same time. So they married very young in Utah. The parents say if they're going to be out here having sex, they have to get married. Even Robert Jr. is married, and he's only 21. So he's 22 now. She's telling this story, and the clerk is saying, oh, your grandma's going to get everybody some stuff. And she says, well, what's she getting you? And Muzzy's like, nothing. And she said, the clerk said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed. I shouldn't have assumed you were pregnant. Bronwyn said, I am. Bronwyn was pregnant as well. And then she says, she's not getting anything for Bronwyn's unborn baby. She's shopping for the other two daughters. Now, y'all, all of them are in the store together. So Bronwyn was saying she didn't expect like baby showers and things like that, but you don't expect to be shunned like that by your parents. Bronwyn, to me, needed as much or more love than the other two girls who are married, who everybody's looking up to and ooh and on over. And I have a problem with that. So Bronwyn was saying how difficult it was. Brigham Young was trying to make sure that she wasn't having sex, getting pregnant. The mother was doing the same thing, but she was so sheltered that, of course, none of that worked out. And then we find out that the father of Bronwyn's baby, his parents were such low-life degenerates, in my opinion, that they could have their son bring a child into the world, and then that side of the family never have anything to do with Gwen until she's 18. That's something else. So Bronwyn says, I was taught not to smoke. I was taught not to drink. You don't have premarital sex, but she still ends up with a baby. And she says she will handle things differently if anything like that were to happen now. So, yeah, that was a sad story. Muzzy is saying that if I didn't care for Gwen, she would have ended up in foster care. Bronwyn gets upset. She said, I would have taken a second job. I would have done anything. Gwen would not have ended up in foster care. Y'all must be saying anything. I can't believe that lady said that. Cece said, I would have had a problem with my parents treating my sibling like that. I would have too. I couldn't imagine you standing there getting these little onesies and stuff, and this lady is telling us perfect stranger, no, I'm not getting her child any. That's hurtful. And we can see the hurt in Bronwyn now. Bronwyn's got to be at least 40 by now. We could see the hurt on her. So she's sitting there with her legs crossed. And Bronwyn and Muzzy is saying, well, you know, I can commend you for what you've done, because she just said if she didn't help care for Gwen, that Gwen would have ended up in foster care. And Bronwyn was like, no, I would have gotten another job. I would have done whatever I need to do. We know last week, Muzzy told her if she hadn't met and married Todd, she don't know where she would have ended up. So she doesn't give Bronwyn credit. But this week she says, Muzzy says to Bronwyn, I don't want you to think that you're not doing anything good. I want you to know, I don't want you to believe that you're too good. So that was confusing. Bronwyn said, wow. Bronwyn, this lady might have to leave your house. I know that's your mom, but she's putting Bronwyn into a really dangerous mental space. So this was uncomfortable again to go through. And when Todd sees this, I don't know that Muzzy gonna be able to stay there. I'm sorry. So I know Muzzy has her own health issues. I know that the father's in memory care, but she might have to go. Here's Elisa Triplett. She needs to go live with those other sisters who Muzzy holds in such high esteem. Thank you. But because Bronwyn probably married better than they did, because they got married at 19. So it's no wonder. They probably married people that were their own age and everything. They may not have a lot. Bronwyn is clearly the more successful of the three. And I'm with Elisa. Maybe send her over there, because I think Bronwyn's put in more than enough time. So Muzzy tells Bronwyn, I feel like you're doing the best that you can do, but I'm not going to tell you that. Thank God that's the end of that scene. Bronwyn, I hope when Bronwyn watches this back and Todd watches this back, Muzzy got on somewhere. I don't know. Sometimes some of those homes have an extra space for the spouse. Maybe she can go live with her husband. So Meredith is with Angie. They're getting a scene together. We get a confessional. Angie, she's telling us, Meredith and I aren't Laverne and Shirley, but we're doing better. Angie K, y'all, I like Angie K, but she's been into it with every single person in the cast. She's able to come back because she's never like low like Lisa. But Angie can get in the mix too. That's why I like her too. She wants her to know that she's glad that they're getting along. Meredith is asking, what do you think about the other day? Meredith does this. She doesn't really get in a lot of stuff, but she'll sit back and kind of poke. What do you think about what happened the other day? Meredith, what do you think about what happened the other day? You were just sitting there fly on the wall. I don't think she said too much this week either. So Angie says, well, a lot has happened, and I want to fill you in about what's happened. She said, I don't know if Lisa talked to you, but I'm going to tell you what she's done to me. She recounts the story of Lisa having the fresh wolf picked up, about the text. Meredith says, well, I think Lisa needs a little bit of grace. So Angie, we can see the wheels turning. Angie gonna make mischief. Angie says, well, if you want to give Lisa grace, that's fine. But I don't know if you know this, but Lisa has been giving me the names of a lot of your friends and your affiliates and associates, and telling me, Google this person, and this is exactly how you spell their name. Google this about them and shoplifting, and then tell me what you get as far as the research. Meredith is looking confused. So Meredith says, I just don't understand why Lisa would tell someone that when she and I are supposed to be on good terms. So now Angie is saying, well, I'm just telling you what Lisa has said and what about you and what she told me to do. And Meredith is saying, you know that I'm going to have to ask her about this. Angie says, I'm perfectly fine with you asking her about this. So I like how Angie did that. That was extremely messy, but I don't blame her, especially Meredith talking about give Lisa grace. And Lisa's trying to dig up stuff on Meredith's whole family, her friends, her business associates, and everybody else. I think they're going to have to treat Lisa as a coworker, y'all. I don't see her as a real friend to anyone. So we get a confessional Meredith saying, Lisa is loyal. Angie K has lied about me for 2 years. So Meredith, this lady is, I don't know. She's telling you what Lisa does now, and what you do with it, that's your business. But don't come crying later at the reunion. So Meredith is just straight out saying, I find it hard to believe that this is true, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I will find out. So Meredith is looking, you know how she does. She's looking intently. Looking dead at Angie K. I'm gonna let her know that you said this. We'll talk about it. Angie's not scared, so this must be true. She said, that's fine. I want you to ask her. That's the end of the episode. So then we get our preview. We see Justin and Whitney. They're planning some type of ladies' luncheon that's going to celebrate love, laughter, flowers. Justin says, and wine. So, y'all. We see Angie standing up, yelling at Lisa. Keep talking. I'll come over there and pull your ears back further than that facelift. So, y'all, you know, on TikTok, they were saying that Lisa Barlow has had some face work done. I don't know if that's true. We see Heather after Angie stands up and says that. They're at lunch again. They always argue at lunch. Heather takes a cloth napkin and just puts it all the way over her head. Then we see Mary. Mary is standing up in Angie's face and she says, Angie K, I'm done with you. And Angie says, go ahead, Mary Cosby, bye. So Angie K, what did you do to Mary Cosby? So Angie's got this little center snowflake and now she's just antagonizing everybody. I'm here for it because I want to know what's going to happen next. This was a good episode, y'all. Not too much jumped off, but just a lot of talking, a lot of different scenes. What I like is to see every single person engaged, including the friend of. So we got a little scene with Brittany. She didn't do too much, but we got to see everybody. Probably Meredith the least, but Meredith is going to be dragged, kicking and screaming next week into some foolishness. So I guess I'll give the episode an 8. We had that Muzzy sighting, which I did not love. Brown was going to have to get that lady out of there. She's way too negative, very hurtful. And I don't like to see her making Bronwyn uncomfortable in her own home. Nobody, well, not nobody, because evidently Bronwyn believes an 18-year-old moving her 18-year-old boyfriend in. I don't know. I'd like to know what the boyfriend parents think, but it's already done. Shaming them or shaming Bronwyn. Todd is allowing it. Bronwyn's allowing it. It's not for anybody else to really try to shame her about it. I don't like how Muzzy handled that. But this was a good episode. Again, I'll give it an 8. It's worth watching. I can't wait until next week to see what's going to happen. But y'all, this was the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City with Sandra Peasgen Extra. If you can, please join me here tomorrow. Y'all, we have part 2 of Real Housewives of Miami, their reunion part 2. So I'll be here at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and we will go back and forth about that. I'm going to give a short recap, possibly a little rant, because there's more than enough to rant with that cast. And then a few behind the scene things that I have to share about the ladies. So just join me here tomorrow. And everybody enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I will see you tomorrow. I'll also see you possibly in the YouTube streets. Thanks for joining. Cece says, have a blessed day, everyone. And I say the same. Goodbye.